Obviously, what he did was highly inappropriate. I think he's embarrassed himself. He's acknowledged that. He's embarrassed his wife and his family. Ultimately, there's going to be a decision for him and his constituents. I can tell you that if it was me, I would resign because public service is exactly that. It's a service to the public. And when you get to the point where, because of various personal distractions, you can't serve as effectively as you need to, at a time when people are worrying about jobs and their mortgages and paying the bills, then you should probably step back.
You know, today, Greece had its credit rating dropped to the lowest in the world. So Greece could be about to default, which could mean another international financial crisis. Today, Germany recognized the rebels in Libya as the legitimate government of Libya. Today, King Abdullah was pelted with bottles and rocks in southern Jordan, as everyone wonders if the Arab Spring will bloom in his country, too. Today, we learned that a U.S. Navy destroyer stalked a ship thought to be carrying missile parts toward Burma, stalked it for days before it turned back and went back to North Korea. Today, the Missouri River breached 2 levees in Iowa and Missouri, prompting evacuations of a whole bunch of farm towns. Today, one of President Obama's major economic advisors, Larry Summers, said the economy needs more stimulus spending. Today, President Obama himself talked about dozens of job creation ideas from his Jobs Council. He warned about essentially how whack it is that the only feasible ideas now are ones that don't have to go through Congress. The latest argument from Democrats for why Congressman Anthony Weiner must resign is that he is a distraction from other much more important stuff that Democrats would rather be talking about, which would make sense if Democrats were only now being deprived of the great news coverage they are used to because they're always so disciplined about their message. If Anthony Weiner resigning would help Democrats keep their message focused on Republicans trying to kill Medicare, if Anthony Weiner resigning would get the Democrats to come up with a political message on repealing the Bush tax cuts for zillionaires, which the polls say is more popular than free beer, if Anthony Weiner resigning would restore honor to Congress, Mr. Vitter, or if Anthony Weiner resigning would do anything else to substantively improve Congress or the Democratic Party's politics, then every partisan liberal in the country probably would want Anthony Weiner to resign, or at least they should. If Anthony Weiner resigning would do anything to improve the seriousness of political news coverage in our great nation or its even-handedness, everyone in the country would want Anthony Weiner to resign, or at least they should. But Anthony Weiner resigning would not do any of those things. Anthony Weiner does not have a magic wand, and the pun is partially intended. So while David Vitter gets to stay in the United States Senate as the hooker guy from the Family Values Party, what is it about Democrats that has them now lining up to call on Anthony Weiner to resign, to cement that double standard? Joining us now with his magic decoder powers is Bob Herbert, who just recently left the New York Times to work on a new book. He's also become a distinguished senior fellow at Demos and a contributor to the American Prospect. Bob, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Rachel. It's great to be here. My goodness, there are some things going on.
There are some things going on in the world.
I'm staying away from the magic wand.
I'm sorry. I got a little worked up about it. So I have a feeling that we may not agree on this. I feel like no national Republicans called for John Ensign to resign. It took him years to resign. No elected Republican that I know of has ever called for David Vitter to resign. He's still there.
Right.
Why are Democrats turning on Anthony Weiner like this?
Well, I'm not sure why Democrats are turning on Anthony Weiner, but I do think it's time for Weiner to go. I also don't think he's going to survive. But I think that there's a lot of reasons he should leave. First and foremost, I don't think Democrats should be behaving like Republicans. I expect Republicans to be I expect politicians to be hypocritical, and I expect Republicans to be at a heightened state of hypocrisy than most politicians. But, you know, I think we should want higher standards in government from our office holders, Republicans and Democrats alike. And I do believe that Weiner's behavior has been egregious. In the first place, it's profoundly disrespectful to women. And if the photos that he sent, if they were uncensored, he'd be gone now. I mean, he sent some hideous stuff. Also, and I think this is an important issue too, he can no longer be effective as a representative of the people of his district. And part of that is because the Democrats in Congress have turned on him, and because the party itself has turned on him, and the president also thinks that he should resign. So no one will co-sponsor legislation with him. He won't get any significant assignments from the party. No one even wants their picture taken with him. So I think that that's another reason.
But isn't that just rewarding the disproportionate coverage of him? So, for example, John Ensign. The John Ensign case was...
I don't think it's about the disproportionate coverage of Weiner. I think it's about what Weiner did. I mean, I look at people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and I look at Nancy Pelosi. I have a great deal of respect for both of them, and they think that he should be gone. You know, and the coverage is disproportionate. There's a lot of reasons for that, and the media, we do go overboard on all of these things.
Well, but I don't underboard on some of them. I mean, the John Ensign scandal. It was marginal coverage, a day or two, even when the Times did that deep, entrenched reporting on it, and we had incredible detail to go on, and there was this blistering special counsel report. It's gone. It's gone, and it was in the ether.
You know, it's a different kind of story. This is such a what the tabloids would say. I used to work for the Daily News, a great tabloid story. But this is a story with pictures. This is a story of a guy with, you know, at a level of narcissism and whatever other problems he has that is really, you know, off the charts. And the fact of his name. I mean, you know, my goodness, this is a story made for what the media have become in this day and age.
Yeah.
Now, is it fair? No. I mean, we have disproportionate coverage of all kinds of things. But if the issue is whether Weiner should be in the House of Representatives or whether he should take a walk, then I think you have to put sort of the other stuff aside, look at what it is that he's done, and look at whether he can be an effective representative of his constituents.
Judging it on its merits as a standalone decision, I think, is something that Anthony Weiner and the people who advise him directly have to do. But for Democrats broadly, for somebody like the president, for the chair of the Democratic Party, for Leader Pelosi to be stepping in and saying this is the standard that Democrats are held to, while that is manifestly untrue for the other side, to me seems like a form of unilateral disarmament.
I don't think it's unilateral disarmament. I think it's you make a stand and you say there are certain standards that we want the folks in our party to maintain. And he hasn't done that, and therefore we would like him to leave. I mean, they haven't thrown him out. But I think that that's a perfectly reasonable stance to take. If the other party is doing whatever it is they're doing, I would say, so what? I mean, you know, as a person who is really foursquare for progressive values, I mean, I would very much like to see Democrats have a higher standard of behavior than the Republicans. They don't always, but I wish that they did.
I guess I feel like it would make sense to me. I feel like it's a totally sound argument. It would make sense to me if Democrats were invested in making Republicans pay for what they've done on things like Vitter and Ensign and letting that stuff skate. And while it did come up on Meet the Press, Debbie Wasserman Schultz sort of gamely tried. It was notable, and we played that exchange just because that never happens. They've let the Republicans skate on this for so long, and it wouldn't even have political impact were the Republicans not crusading as the family values party while letting this happen in their own party among their own members.
But, you know, should what the Republicans do in any way justify what Weiner has done or mitigate potential sanctions against Weiner?
That should be decided. I think, no, he has to make his own decision on its own merits, I think. But in terms of the strategy of the parties,
I don't have any problem with the parties actually making the decision for him, and I think that's in fact what's happening. The reason I think that he's going to have to leave is because the party has refused to close ranks around him, and in fact they've got the hatchets out, and that's saying my man has to go.
That's the part that so flummoxes me, and you make the best argument for it that I have yet heard. But I'm still absolutely flummoxed that Democrats are throwing him under the bus on this and not just screaming double standard, double standard.